So I am just on the BJJ Fanatics website, and what's amazing is now we've already talked about Gravity is Your Friend, but there are 2 other instructionals that you might want to talk about.
Recently, I had the opportunity to work with BJJ Fanatics guy, and now we have 3 instructionals out there. We have escapes engineered for guys over 40. If you're 40 or more, hey, dig into it. Gravity's your friend. Sit-up sweeps. Been there for some time, and is really, really getting a lot of attention. And then we have the smash the knee folding pass. Now, that's one of my favorites. So if you haven't looked at them, take a look. BJJfanatics.com.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
Sure, we live.
Are we?
Stop pressing your phone.
I can't.
You need to be
taken after you.
You need to be present. My phone, I never touch my phone. Only when
that silence. If you're not watching this, I gave him a look. That's what that silence was. I will move my phone out of the way.
I don't touch my phone when I'm on the air.
Okay. Roll the tape. Well, good. I won't touch mine today. I'll put it away. So what are we talking about here? Change. Yes.
Sebastian, great conversation with Sebastian.
Yeah, he's fun. He's a funny guy.
He's a funny guy.
He was.
Who was it? Weather refugee?
Yes, he's a weather refugee. Which, not to make light of any real refugees out there, but he's from Norway, and it's winter time, and he's in Spain right now. Which I wouldn't mind being in Spain right now too.
But what a great passion and vision for his organization, right? Yeah. He's really trying to change the way how we think about jiu-jitsu and recovery and, getting our bodies in motion, especially as we get older and we continue training, right? So wear and tear was a big part of the conversation. So I'm wondering, what changes you have made over the time. So now I'm not talking about today, but over the time, right? So like the evolution of Gary Jiu-Jitsu. Evolution of Gary Jiu-Jitsu. What has changed for you in order for you to continue training and continue gaining the benefits? Please don't say 0 because this episode, we won't be able to air it.
Picking my partners has changed, When you start, you're like, you go with anybody, it doesn't matter. So picking my partners has definitely changed. And, you just got to realize what isn't working, right? What's not working? Well, I need to change that. How do I change it? And going to your instructor or going to your training partners and making those necessary changes. But what I took away from it and when talking about change is like changing the whole, almost the culture of jiu-jitsu so that you're bringing in these other elements into it that make it more beneficial for everyone, right? So and it's going to make it, he's specifically, if you didn't listen, if you don't know who he is, for him, it's all about yoga. And this yoga is going to be beneficial to the 25-year-old ex-athlete. It's going to be beneficial to the 45-year-old never been an athlete, and it's going to be beneficial to everybody in between and older than that. And he's talking trying to change. That's a big lift. That's a monumental change, right? To change the culture of something, and people are resistant to that on a lot of different levels for a lot of different reasons. It's working. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. Well, maybe it's not working for everybody, and that's why you don't have student retention. You think the jiu-jitsu might be good, right? But it's a revolving door of people coming in and out instead of growing. So sometimes change is necessary. You got to put your ego aside and be receptive to new ideas and a different way of doing things, even though you think what you're doing is the best way to do it.
Well, interestingly, I think, what you're talking about would require of us to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
And acknowledge the fact that even though the things are, listen, I'll stop it right now. There is two different things. If things are working, they're working right now.
Yeah.
Right. Evolution or any type of change is for the future.
Sure.
And that's fundamentally two different points of time.
Yeah.
Right. So anything we are changing is to impact the future. Anything that's working at this point is working right now. So if something is working, does not mean that it's going to work in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So having this fixed mindset, which we recently talked about, right, is essentially, I'm not going to change it because it's working. Well, that means you're not evolving, you're not growing, you're not continuously getting better. Mm-hmm. Because getting better doesn't necessarily mean that things are not working. That means that you want to get improved for the future. Like, these are fundamental different points, right? So like this whole mentality of, don't fix it if it ain't broken is, I think, the biggest BS, one of the biggest mistakes people make. Like, why are you laughing?
'Cause.
Did I say something that was funny?
No, I just think that there's change for change's sake can be bad, but change for improvement or correction is important.
But
and,
look, things change all the time.
Right.
We just don't see them because the change takes so long.
Yes.
Look, 15 years ago, internet didn't exist. Somebody came up with the yahoo.com and everybody's, what is this nonsense, blah, blah, blah. Today, you cannot exist without Google.
Wow.
Listen, look at it from a business perspective. Business cannot exist without internet. They won't even get off the ground. So something that we have resisted for the sake of things working, now it's fundamental to what we do today.
Sure. But it can also be an issue. It can also be a detriment.
Well, I think everything can be
right.
you
so
know,
you
positive,
have to
negative.
you have to be wise about what you're doing.
But what I'm saying is we can't say things are working and I'm not going to change them. We need to look at this objectively and say, listen, they are working right now, but how can I continue getting it better? How can I continue improving it? This is not me fixing things. This is me improving things, which is different directions, right? Another example, look at maps. Freaking, I remember doing road trips with my father. We had a freaking, I was sitting in the front seat with a freaking huge map, and for us, he always yelled at me, don't cover my view, blah, 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 but you couldn't see anything. You know what I mean? Today, truthfully, do you ever go anywhere outside of 5 or 10 mile radius without pulling your phone up and Google Maps or whatever maps you use?
Yeah, I was just watching something the other day. I don't remember what it was, but they pulled out a map. And they had an orange marker, and they were mapping out where they were going. Mm-hmm. And then I was in the car, and we were going somewhere. I don't even remember where we were going, but I said to Margaret, I was like, "How the hell did people do this? Like, I don't even remember." Oh, I
remember that.
So it was an ambulance driver,
taking
someone home. They didn't have the lights on or anything like that. And it's like, how the hell did this happen 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, you would have to find somebody to verbally tell you the directions to get this person where they needed to be.
Or the driver knew exactly where to go. And here's what I say this. My father was a cab driver.
Oh, really?
Way back in Poland.
Yeah.
Way back. This is like I'm 5.
Uh-huh.
And I have a clear recollection. Actually, I remember being in a preschool or whatever. I had to be 5 or less. But I remember him he was doing his cab rides or cab routes, and he picked me up from preschool, which was about probably half hour from my house. But I always waited for him outside of the building. The cab, his car pulled up. I jumped in the car, and then we drove back. But I remember these stories of sometimes while I was in the car, he picked one rider up because it was on the way home, so he could make extra buck. And I remember it was like, what's the address? Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay, we're going to go here, 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 here. And you're talking about, Krakow is not a big city, but it's big enough. Like, it's a major city in Poland. He knew every street. Like, you tell him address, and he knew how to go there. And today, we don't need to do that. We don't need to know things.
Right.
Until
your battery dies.
I know your battery dies.
Right.
Like, I even know myself. Like, my phone, like, if I have an appointment, whatever, the address is in an address field, like, the map will come up by itself. And I just followed, like, brainlessly, follow the directions.
So you have this change. This change has happened. But if you don't have the foundation or the knowledge that came before that change, you could end up being in a lot of trouble. I remember getting phone calls in the middle of the night. Happened twice. It wasn't the middle of the night, but I was at home. It was at night. My girlfriend had a business thing. She lived in Downers Grove. It was in Joliet. I lived in the city. And she called me. She was lost in Joliet. I've never been to Joliet. I have no idea, right?
This is a bad place to be
lost.
Lost.
It can be. Certain areas can be. And I was like, all right, well, what direction are you headed in right now? She had no clue. She didn't know if she was going north, south, east, or west, and she didn't have an idea of how to figure that out.
Yeah.
Right? Another time she was in the city, lost in the city. Could end up in some bad spots. You going east or west? I don't know. Are you going towards the big buildings or away from the big buildings? I'm going towards them. You're going east.
Yeah.
I knew where she was,
yeah.
so I knew she had to be going east.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that's going to happen to a lot more people.
But see, on the flip...
they take this change and they don't... I don't know where we're going with this or where this conversation's headed right now, but it's like you can't discard all that stuff that came before, I guess I'm saying. Take it with you and then accept the change and take that too.
Yeah, but, listen, like... how do you take these information or how do you take these skills if they are never taught to you? Mm-hmm. Like today's kids are not taught. How do you recognize, north, south, east, west? Like, I know they are taught that, but it's not the same way as we were taught. Like, I remember in school learning that, like if you were in the middle of woods, literally, how you identified which directions. Like, I was taught that.
Sure,
like,
sure.
So not that it's a life-saving skill, but it could be point of troubleshooting in today's life.
Right.
Today we have phones, and the question is, okay, I still have 17% left. Let me put in the battery save mode. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's the mentality today.
Right. Or how many kids don't know could not get to their school if it was left up to them. They couldn't, like because their nose is always down in something, watching something. They don't look up. There's no markers.
So how do we evolve? How do we get better? This change. So we acknowledging that change is important as long as used in the right correction in the correction way, right? So how do we continue changing things in our lives? Like, let's bridge this back to Jiu Jitsu because we're talking about
we're way off of where we started.
Yeah, it's typical. That's welcome to takeaway. If you're still listening,
we changed the topic. That's more change.
But in Jiu-Jitsu, things evolve often, right? So, especially on the mat, right? So, if things are working, should you be changing the game or should you continue doing what you're doing? That's the $1 million question, right? So, I'm curious your perspective. You are purple belt now, so you have all the knowledge has been downloaded to you.
Yeah, I got it up here. I can't get it to come out on the mat, but that could be because of the time spent on it. It's only going to work for so long. We talked to somebody else who said, Victor Hugo pushed Gordon Ryan off of him, just muscled him, right? How many more times is he going to be able to do that? Not very many, because Gordon Ryan's going to be like, okay, I'm not going to let that happen again, right? I know that this is what he's capable of. I'm not going to let that happen. And I think in jiu-jitsu, when you have anything that's working for you, somebody's going to figure it out. So if you can't change, what's working for you now is only going to work for you in the short term. And you might look awesome for a little while.
So what's one of the changes that you've made? It's for something that has been working, but you made it better.
I had okay side control. It got better, right? Octavio Kudo taught me things that, I never even thought about when it came to side control. But where do you go from there? You're just going to hold somebody down? No, I had to change. Now I'm here. Where do I go from there? What do I do now? All right, well, let's see. I'm going to go to mount. Once I get to mount, am I just going to sit on you? Am I just going to go for those easy submissions? Well, no, I need to learn. I'm a purple belt now. I need to.
So much confidence in the room.
But then I should act like one. What I think one should be acting like. And it should be, okay, I need to have these tools and be proficient at them. Well, if I'm just holding you down in side control and playing it safe, this is good, this is what's working for me, then I'm not gaining those tools. Now, let's say I get good at those tools. Well, guess what? Somebody on bottom is going to know how to counter that, right? So, okay, now I need more tools. So you have to keep adding things. You have to keep changing, right? Adding things is changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't do that, well, guess what? You'll have success against, we were talking to somebody who said, you know what? You'll have success against white belts for sure. You'll have success against blue belts. You might even have success against purple belts. But there's going to come a time where that's just going to run out. And if you roll with high-level guys, they're just going to, it's not going to work. All that stuff that worked for you before isn't going to work.
They don't have to be higher-level guys.
Yeah.
They just challenge you on things that you don't work for you.
Yeah. And it's like, well, do you need to have all these other things in order to go with anyone?
Yeah. Well, if you break it down in fundamental points, we would be improving. We would be making change because things don't work, or we would be making change because things do work, but we want to make them better. Mm-hmm. Like, these are the only two. Am I missing? I don't know. These are the only two scenarios that I see in my mind.
Right.
Either it's not working, or it's working, but you want to make it better.
Right.
Right. Now, just the question is which one you want to focus on at any given time, right? Because sometimes it's more important to work on things that don't work, right? To get them to the point of where we want them to be. Yeah. But also, it is often underestimated. I cannot stress this, guys. It is underestimated where we think things work and we leave them. We don't touch them and they become stagnant.
Right.
And that's why we're not growing.
Right. So I like to look at it as it's not working anymore. It works. It's not working anymore. Well, why not? Let's change it, Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be moving on to a completely different concept.
No.
It's just, okay.
We are not talking about what the solution is. We are talking about just a points of acknowledgement in which the continuous growth needs to continue. Needs to happen.
Right.
Right? Either it's not working or it's working, but we want to get it better.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because sometimes, I never know myself. Like, I have things that are my favorite things, and I do them all the time. But that doesn't mean that I should be in them. I doesn't mean that I should just accept them for what they are. There's more to them, and continuously evolving them, continuously getting them better and refining them makes me better.
Yes.
So don't fall into the pit of this is good enough. It never is. Not in my mind, at least.
All right, then. Let's go.
Later.
Let's leave it right there.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.